Hey everybody, welcome into the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy. I can't wait to chat with the Mooch. Anthony Scaramucci is back in the back room. We'll chat with him in just a second, but first, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening, and we'd love to hear your comments. So email us at backroomandy@gmail.com and or post on our social media, and we'll read some feedback next time. And if you like the podcast, please rate and review and follow or subscribe, and you'll be notified every time we post a new episode. So, Anthony Scaramucci is the founder and managing partner of global investment firm SkyBridge, and founder and chairman of SALT, a global thought leadership forum and venture studio. He's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and a board member of the Federal Enforcement Homeland Security Foundation, and the author of 5 books, including last year's From Wall Street to the White House and Back, and his new book, The Little Book of Bitcoin, What You Need to Know That Wall Street Has Already Figured Out. That book will be released February 11th. He also hosts the Open Book podcast, and along with Caddy K, he co-hosts the Rest is Politics podcast. And he's, of course, well known for the 11 roller coaster days he served in the first Trump White House as communications director after having served on Trump's finance committee and then on his presidential transition team. Mooch, welcome back into the back room. So talk to me.
I may need to live in the back room before this is all over.
You got your passports ready? Like, what's happening?
The deep back room.
So are you
doing, Andy?
I'm good. Just, like a lot of people trying to figure out, do I need to flee the country at some point? What's your take on that?
Well, you have 207 weeks. The problem is that you and I are getting to be old bastards. So like when Trump leaves office, I'll be like ready for Medicare. I don't understand why that had to have happened to me, but here it is. But
it's funny you say that. I literally was saying to somebody the other day, because I just turned 65. And I am now one of the proud Medicare card holders. And I was doing the math, and I said, okay, I'm starting to feel better because I'm 65. When he's gone, I'm still going to be in my 60s. So I feel like I'm young still.
Well, I mean, you got to hope. I mean, look, he's got 207 weeks. He can do heavy damage. So I know they were talking about February 1st for the tariffs. Now it looks like it's been pushed to March 1st. I think he's got people inside the administration and in the Congress that are really pushing hard at saying, don't do that. I mean, you can't. Why are we putting 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada, our two best allies? They live in the same hemisphere as us. They live on the same continent. And we have no armies. We have no standing armies on either of those two borders, thank God. Think of the resource drain for people like Russia and China, where they sit troops on each other's borders. And so I don't know. I don't know why he wants to do that. Nobody can answer it. The answers that come back are absolutely nonsensical. But he's an absolute crazy person. And so they're doing a press conference this week. He looks terrible. The makeup's off. His eyes are white. His skin is orange. The eyebrows are white. He looks literally deranged.
He looked nuts.
He looks literally like he's left the kabuki makeup half on, half off. He's standing there, and then these guys do the parade of Trump talk. Trump is amazing, great leadership during this crisis, and then before they say anything to the American public. And listen, I know Sean Duffy, worked with Sean Duffy at Fox. Very nice man, very smart guy, has no experience in transportation. Pete Hegseth serves in the American military, no experience to run an organization like the one that he's been now put in charge of. And so J.D. Vance, smart guy, not saying he isn't, but J.D. Vance is about to get the reckoning of his life. He's going to be the Mike Pence of this administration. He's already been put in the wood chipper up to his ankles, And every time he opens his mouth, Trump wants to stuff him in a closet somewhere because he doesn't like any attention going away from himself. So you're in a bedlam situation, and your viewers and your listeners are trying to, I don't know, deal with it. I don't know. But I mean, there's nothing. I mean, I guess I try to tell people, I have a podcast, you have a podcast. I try to be like, hey, this is him. You can't expect any different outcome. A plane crashes, it's not his fault. And so he's going to disclaim it, and then he's going to blame it on something political.
But
You know,
one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because I saw you post this week, because this is really what it's going to come down to. You're right. He is who he is. He's told us who he is. He's told us what he's going to do. And there's
exactly.
nothing we can do about him. But there's stuff that we can do about it, right? Which was the subject of your post. You made a reference to like the way he's treated. It's as if he's the child of Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan. But more
Yeah.
importantly, you called for Democrats to just grow some balls and fight this guy in a way they
Yeah.
haven't. Talk to me about that.
Why don't I mean? Well, so I'm not a Democrat, right? So I mean, I'm obviously not a Republican anymore, but I had right of center views on business and sort of, left of centerish views on social issues, but I'm not really a Democrat. But I don't understand how they let the hard left hijack their whole movement and their whole narrative to the point where they've turned off everybody in the middle. I have mothers, Scott Galloway is a very close friend of mine. There are mothers that come to me and say that they're worried about their white male sons. Highest rate of suicide, 30% increase in suicide for white young males age 18 to 30. I understand that we want to even the playing field. I understand that we've lived in a world of white male privilege for, let's say, decades, or you want to say 1,000 years, whatever the number is. But if you want to vanquish that entire group and subjugate them, you're going to cause a political upheaval. And so there are moms that are worried about their sons. There are moms that are worried about their brothers, or sisters worried about their brothers, wives worried about their husbands. So the left has lost its mind. I don't know, why not return to the white lower and middle class people that voted for Franklin Roosevelt, voted for Lyndon Johnson, Jack Kennedy? What the hell are you guys doing? The other thing is you lost the election by 1.7% of the popular vote, less than 300,000 votes in those 7 swing states. You had a candidate that had no visibility running against the most famous person in the world, and she almost beat the son of a bitch. And you guys are walking around like this guy is the second coming of Abraham Lincoln. And so I don't understand it. So I almost want to shake them. I'll tell you, I had a really bad week this
But
week.
what about Pacino?
Oh, yeah, no, I said, yeah, on any given Sunday, we got to get these people in the locker room and shake them by the lapel and say, what the hell are you doing? But I was just going to say, who had a really bad week and needs the Pacino speech is Chuck Schumer. He's had a terrible week. Chuck Schumer, what the hell are you doing? You're floundering. You're floundering with the questioning. You're floundering with the Democratic narrative. You're floundering as the guardian of our system and our democracy. The Republicans look at the emperor with no clothes, and they say that he's beautifully adorned. So we know the Republicans are principleless cowards. We know that they have no philosophical anchors in their personalities. They cannot stand up to Donald Trump. We understand that. We have one orange maniac that has forced a capitulation of Abraham Lincoln's party. But you're not in Abraham Lincoln's party. You got to grow some balls, and you got to get in people's faces and remind them how the country got to be where it is.
So why aren't they doing that? With this existential crisis we're facing right now, why aren't they doing it? What are they waiting for?
Because they lost. So the two worst Democrats of the last 50 years are Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler. Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler caused them to lose the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And they also caused them to lose half of Silicon Valley. And how on God's earth did they lose Elon Musk? Elon Musk is running he's an eccentric person, but he's running the highest profile electric vehicle company in the world. You disinvite him because the UAW president tells you that you can't have him at the meeting. And so you disinvite him. You see, and the other thing is Joe Biden was completely out to lunch. And I'll point something out to you, Andy, and I want you to think about this. There was absolutely no turnover in Joe Biden's administration. That is unheard of. Now, again, you have the ridiculous turnover in Donald Trump, but every administration gets turnover. The fact that he had no turnover is a sign that he wasn't making any decisions. It was a sign that he was delegating everything. It was a sign that he was half asleep or half awake at the wheel. And this is the reason why all those guys lied to the American people. They wanted to stay in power. So they said, oh, this is great. We have unheard of presidential powers. We're not leaving. And let's see if we can keep him. Then we have a Lady Macbeth, Jill Biden. They lie to the American people. They lie to the donors. And then, of course, we glaringly see the obvious in June of last year. They force a transition. There's no intergenerational transfer. So they're on their back heels for 3 reasons. They flubbed the intergenerational transfer. They lost a money spigot from Silicon Valley, which was pouring into them. But they let Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler hijack that narrative. They let the hard woke people and the people tied to the unions in the Biden administration to kick out Elon Musk. Okay, the other thing is you can like or dislike Bobby Kennedy. I don't give a shit. He's a Democrat, and he's been a lifelong Democrat, and he's got the Kennedy name. He's Bobby Kennedy Jr., for God's sake. How could you let that guy leave the party? Now, the answer is they didn't want to have any primaries. The answer is they didn't want Biden
kind of
to
nuts.
go.
Maybe that's the reason. Nuts
but
and
it doesn't
dangerous.
matter.
Not a good formula.
Okay, but then come on. You never read any mob novels or watched them? You keep your enemies closer than your friends.
So find a place for him somewhere.
Yeah, 100%.
Get him, keep him in. Okay.
Keep him in the party. Keep him in the party. And by the way, you have no primaries in the party. Trump is the guy that we're worried about. He's the guy that's going to blow up the democracy. But we anoint Hillary Clinton in 2016. We anoint Joe Biden in 2024. We're going to have absolutely no primaries, and we're going to cancel New Hampshire. Okay, but we're worried about Trump, and then Biden can't put sentences together, so we're not going to have any mini primary the way Obama wants. We're going to anoint Kamala Harris, and I like her. I voted for her, but I'm just saying you didn't give her a chance. You gave her 107 days to come up with a narrative. And she was staffed with Biden staffers. So she takes no risk, doesn't go on Rogan, doesn't go on Fox. You know, if you ask me, sit on Fox News like Pete Buttigieg for 30 days. Half the voters are watching Fox News. I'm sorry to that. Get your ass over there and sit in the chair like Pete Buttigieg. Yeah.
And it wasn't even not so much his staff per se, but her campaign was run by those people. And then a week after the election, they were on Pod Save America blaming everything under the sun except themselves.
But you see, it's unfair, and it's unfair to the people. So now, why are they on their ass? No one is willing to have the reckoning. I have gotten my ass kicked in life. I've gotten my ass kicked in business. I've gotten my ass kicked politically. When I got fired from the White House, Andy, I had to have a reckoning with myself. I had to look myself in the mirror. This is what I'm good at. This is what I suck at. This is what I did wrong. This is what I need to do better. This is what I'm going to do going forward. When I had the worst year of my life in investments in 1 month, March of 2020. So somebody says, see, what's my worst year? I say, well, my worst year is 1 month. It was actually 15 trading days. I got my living ass kicked. So what did I do? Did I say, it's everybody else's fault but mine? I do that or no? I said, okay, I suck. Here's why I suck. Now, what am I going to do to dig myself out of this hole, and what changes am I going to make? 24 was the best year that I've had in my investment career because I was able to have the reckoning. I was able to stare down the barrel and say, here's where I am. The Democrats are not doing that. Guys, the woke stuff sucks. AOC is telling you that. She's a very smart politician. She polled her people. She said, excuse me, you voted for Donald Trump, but you also voted for me. Why? We hate the woke stuff. Okay. She takes her profile designation and drops her personal pronoun off her profile. Hey, Hollywood, it's not over until you make the remake of Tropic Thunder 2. It's not over until you have Hangover 17. It's not over till we get back into the comedy business and being able to tease each other without it being a microaggression that causes a professional death sentence, AKA known as a cancellation.
So I think if there was ever going to be a Tropic Thunder 2, you would have to fund it because that's just never going to happen again. But I understand your point.
But it doesn't have to go that far. I'm saying that to be exaggerating. It doesn't have to go that far. We
No, but
could
that's
have
where
a
we're at.
comedy. We could have a comedy, Andy, where we make fun of each other.
But one of the points that you're raising, which is getting tough, one of the fun things about having a podcast, as you know, is you get to talk to a lot of different people. The people who speak the most about being tough and fighting, it's all either the ex-Republicans or current Republicans, people like you, people like Michael Steele, people like Rick Wilson. Why can't Democrats, given everything we are witnessing and experiencing right now, when are they, to your point about any given Sunday, when are they going to do what they need to do? Because without that, we're dead. The party is dead. Democracy might be dead.
So let me flip it back to you. I've looked through the roster. Tell me who is going to lead the Democrats out of the wilderness. Go ahead.
It might be AOC.
Okay. Maybe it's her.
She's a young woman, but she's got plenty of room to grow. She's got plenty of time in some way.
I disagree with her on some things.
So do
I am blown away by her work ethic. I am blown away by her political instincts.
Absolutely.
No question. And so she's telling you something by her actions. Hey, I got the message. I pulled down my pronoun on the Twitter feed. I get it. And so the question is, who's going to see? To me, if I were them, I'm not, but if I were them, the Republicans just had a House organizing summit. They went down to Miami and they all sat around and they listened to Trump and they're trying to fundraise and they're trying to do stuff. Okay. You can hate what they're doing, and I do. And I was a former Republican, but they're organized. There's no organized, there's nobody saying, hey guys, March 1st, we're going to XYZ. You pick the retreat, you pick the place. We're going to sit down and we're going to come out of here with a plan. And I'm not saying that plan's perfect, but here's how we're going to coordinate our messaging. Here's how we're going to coordinate our narrative. Here's how we're going to speak to the American people that are normal. You're not going to reach certain people that are magnified by Donald Trump. But here are people that are in the middle that are normal. Andy, the numbers are terrible, okay? 54% of the white women voted for Donald Trump. 47% of overall women voted for Donald Trump. Those are real numbers. They're not even Trump numbers. And when you ask those women, why did you vote for Donald Trump? Well, I'm worried about my kid. I'm worried about my white son. I'm worried about him. I'm worried about the culture that he's in. I'm worried if he says to a woman that she has a nice dress on that he could get charged for rape. I'm worried about it. So that's why I voted for him. Oh, okay. Guys, wake up. Wake up. What are you doing? What are you doing? You stood for progress. You stood for women's rights. You stood for middle-class opportunity. You were the proponents of the GI Bill. For Christ's sake, Harry Truman came up with the Truman Doctrine. You rejected communism. You were for freedom and the cause of freedom around the world, and you were looking out for the little guy in the United States to give them an equal opportunity. What the hell are you doing now? What the hell are you guys doing? Okay, and you're letting Trump hijack the narrative from those people. Those people feel so left out, Andy. They don't know where to turn, and they hear Trump's angry. Trump's going to flip over the table. Trump's going to make Andy Ostroy and Anthony Scaramucci aggravated, and they represent the establishment. So I hate those two assholes. So I want those two assholes outraged by every move that Donald Trump's making. So let me vote for Donald Trump. But he's against your economic interests. Yeah, I know, but everybody's against my economic interests, and at least he's making Andy and Anthony pissed off. So let me vote for him.
But
Are you kidding me?
But we saw this week that a lot of people, MAGA people, Americans overall, were flooding their congresspeople and senators' offices with complaints about the spending freeze, and he had to walk that back. And so do you think that there's an opportunity that there's some reason to be optimistic or encouraged by what we've been seeing in just these first 2 weeks?
No. He could blow his popularity. He could blow his momentum. He's totally capable of self-detonating. He's also on a clock. And let me give you the clock so you know what the clock is, and I think you know this. It's March or February, possibly generously May of 2026. after which time it's over.
Yeah.
Because he will have completely jumped the shark after the 26 election. Now you probably saw this. The Republicans in the House want to put a bill together that allows him to run again, but also embedded in the bill is Barack Obama can't run again. Only Donald Trump can run again. Okay, guys. I mean, you guys are really something else, right? So you just really, the height of full-born frontal hypocrisy, but he's not going to run again. Okay, he's going to be 82 years old. He looks terrible, Andy. He looks terrible. He's in day 14 of his administration, and he's not fixing his hair. I can tell you that.
I mean, look, the guy spent how many years in television, and he can't hire a fucking hair and makeup person to do the right job?
Well, he doesn't, because he doesn't want people ratting on him. He doesn't want people ratting on the toupee that's welded in and all the moves that got to happen on the hair, and he doesn't want people ratting on him.
He's like my 6-year-old granddaughter in the bathroom putting on her own makeup.
His wife, as you know, is not living in the White House. She hates his guts. So she's living outside the White House, and he's got nobody helping him, and you can see it. And here's the thing that I said on my podcast, which I'll share on yours. He doesn't have his family around. And whatever you think of that, that's bad. Because I knew Ivanka, I knew Jared, I knew Melania. They would provide a softening agent. By Trump's own admission, Melania looked at that speech and said the inauguration speech, which was cuckoo for coconuts, she took things out of the speech. By Trump's own admission, were too harsh. So they're not around, which means he's going to act crazier and crazier without them around. But my point to you, because you are a Democrat and you have a lot of Democrats listening to this podcast, call Schumer, call Gillibrand, call Gavin, and say, guys, don't you think you should have a coming to Jesus, or whatever you want to call it, a coming to the universe, a coming to Moses? I don't give a shit what you call it. But don't you think you should get together and say, hey, this is what we have to do to retake? You have more registrations than the Republicans, and more independents side with Democrats on most issues. So what are we doing? And by the way, how could you let Elon Musk, okay, I don't give a shit. How could you let Elon Musk out of the fold? Bobby Kennedy out of the fold? Yeah, they're nuts, they're eccentric, they're this, they're that. He's for the Nazis in Germany. Okay, figure it out. Get him back in the fold. Okay, how could you unleash Silicon Valley, which was welded to the Democrats, but you let Elizabeth? This is Biden's fault, because he was too old and he was not on watch, and he let Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler run the process. Okay, and those guys. But how much of it? Because you're in this world and you know these players a lot better than most people, the Bezos, the Zuckerbergs, all of these people that were front and center at the inauguration, pouring $1 million apiece into this thing, these oligarch wannabes. Yes, it's the party that somehow lost some of this, but aren't they ultimately the most culpable right now, because they're seeing an opportunity to have everything they've ever wanted, and they are just drunk with greed and power. They are. And it's disgusting to watch. But Andy, that's how you get to be a billionaire. You don't get to be a billionaire by coming down from Mount Sinai with 2 tablets. You don't get to become a billionaire by sitting in the College of Cardinals. You get to be a billionaire because you're a transactionalist and you have moral flexibility and you're willing to do things that you and I are not willing to do. Okay, I'm going to rail against Donald Trump. If they called me tonight and said, look, we're going to give you an extra $100 million, don't rail against Donald Trump. Come down to Mar-a-Lago and have a bacon, lettuce, and tomato BLT with the guy with extra mayo, and don't rail on Donald Trump. Here's the extra $100 million. I'm not taking it. I'm not taking it because I care and love the country, and I've done really well in this country. But they're taking it. They're taking it. You know, they made Zuckerberg come through the servants' entrance. He had to wait 90 minutes to 2 hours to see Donald Trump for 30 seconds. Okay, they were disabusing him like he was a punished school child. He lit him up for the money for the inauguration. He just gave him $25 million because he pulled him off of Facebook after an insurrection. I would have said, are you effing kidding me? You tried to foment, you're the president again, but you tried to bring down the government because you lost an election. There's no graciousness to your personality. Let's fight this out in the courts.
Mm-hmm.
But they said, oh, no, we may end up in jail. We may end up as political dissidents. We're not going to do that. Mr. Trump, here's the money. ABC News, here's the money. CBS, here's the money. Jeff Bezos, well, I'm not writing that op-ed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, he's a nut, but I'm not writing that. I'm going to sit with him at the inauguration. I got to get these contracts for my space company. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Yeah, come on. It is so bad, and you no longer represent what you should represent to young kids, which is the American dream and the American spirited entrepreneur who's doing good things for the American culture and the American society. Now you're just a transactional maniac. You're another rich dude. Big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There's a lot of rich dudes, Andy. Big deal. And that's what they're doing. And by the way, Trump, just so everybody understands this, because I know the son of a bitch, like this hand, see the back of this hand? I know the son of a bitch. He put him in the second row for a reason. You are my supplicants.
Absolutely.
I'll put my family in the first row. You billionaires, I want everybody to see globally that you bent your knee to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the cabinet members? Who the hell are those guys again? Okay, they're in the third row, and obviously MAGA is nowhere to be seen. They're out in the cold because I'm really not MAGA. And get on your knees and you bow to me so I can snicker to myself because I'm an insecure guy, and I can snicker to myself that because I'm such an uncomfortable outsider, I forced myself into your life, and I made you bow the knee to me. And you got guys like Schumer that know this guy for 40, 50 years, took donations from him. Wake up, guy. Come on. You don't have the stomach for this fight. You don't have the stomach for the fight, that's fine. Tell people you're not running for re-election. Give somebody else in New York a chance to be a great senator from the state of New York to see if they can take this thing on. But you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, this is the fight of our lives. And we got to get better organized than we are right now. They should kick their asses in the midterms. And by the way, Trump's going to have a lot of money because he went to all these guys and said, I need $25 million for this and $50 million for that. Mm-hmm. And, money rules this thing now. So he's going to have a money advantage likely coming into the midterms.
Yeah. Well, precarious times for sure. Come back soon. Let's continue the chat. Thanks as always.
I appreciate it, brother. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too. This episode of The Back Room was edited and produced by me, Andy Ostroy. It was co-edited and co-produced by Matty Rosenberg and co-produced by Jen Hammoud. Our theme song was composed by Andrew Hollander, and our logo was designed by Cricket Langell. And special thanks to Patricia Wind. Please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, and also follow or subscribe. Until next time, keep your eyes on Washington, Hollywood, and your own backyards, and have a great week.